Hi, this is Maxime Verbis, and it is our 7th video on the destiny. Are you a preacher? Is your imagination shaped by devotion? Is your ethos driven by idealism? Is your life plagued by lust? If it's the case, this video may interest you. Ideology such as Christianity, Islam and communism spread around the world due to the great power of their message and their universality. Nowadays, we have some distrust about those ideologies because it feels that they put at risk our individual choice. But we cannot make any society if we have something in common to strive for. And to spread the message, we need a preacher. So the preacher is the professional that transmits ideologies to people. The imagination of the preacher is shaped by two dimensions: devotion and intimacy. What is devotion? We all know that flower called sunflower has that incredible capacity to turn its flower towards the sun. And it's a good metaphor for what devotion is, because devotion is the natural orientation we have towards what we consider as extremely important in life. When you have a destiny of a preacher, devotion will shape your life. That means that what matters the most in life is the affinity you may have upon food, people, ideology, or a football club. And you will be highly attentive to that dimension of affinity all over your environment. The relation that is created between the baby and the mother is far more than purely material. Of course, the mother has to attend to the care of the body, but she mostly has to create a bubble where the child will feel completely one with her mom. And it is a part of our development, is that we need to create a sense of intimacy, first with the mother, and then with the family, in opposition to what's happened in the exterior. Then to create some intimacy with a group of friends or a football club, a nation. So that dimension exists at any level of society. Intimacy is the feeling that we are one with one person or a specific group, and the rest of the world will be a stranger for us. So if you have a destiny of a preacher, intimacy is the main dimension upon what you will build your emotional stability. That means that you are constantly evaluating the degree of intimacy you are having with people and how close you feel to them or how stranger you feel to them. And so what you will look for is signs of emotional closeness. What you are looking for is emotional closeness. Whenever you can feel that you are exactly on the same page with people, you will feel at ease. And if they feel too different, you will have to reject them, because they are not the same. They are stranger to you. Christianity wouldn't have survived without the role of the preacher, because of course they had to spread Christianity into the world, but then after they had to re-Christianize permanently the people, because it is the human nature to lose progressively our ideals and to get them distorted. So that requires the role of someone who will bring back the ideals. If you have a destiny of a preacher, idealism is the driving force of your life. That is what will give meaning to your life. And that is also what will make your consciousness grow. Of course, that idealism will require some development and training. And in the first level, you will acquire that idealism in that capacity to enter into very intense relationship, many times in love affairs, and to experiment that incredible sensation we are when there is just one person in the world that matters for us. But then you will grow, and you will arrive to a next stage where what will matter is not specific individual, but it is a social role you take. And you will inject your idealism into taking seriously your role and to be completely committed to your role and to be one with that role. When your intellect will grow mature enough, the idealism will take a very mental form, and you will get interest to any forms of ideals, and you will understand that ideals is something that creates a very strong social bond, but that creates also very strong social cleavage. And you will try to understand how ideologies are spreading in the world. One more time, it is an intellectual version of the same tendency to idealism. Basically, idealism pushes us to look upwards. But the more we look upwards, the less we get aware of what's going on downstairs. And we are at risk to fall into that vice that used to be called in the past lust. And of course, lust is associated with sexual lust and with those poor priests that try to do anything to push away their sexual drives. But lust is far more complex and widespread in the world, because it can also exist in some social activity like hooliganism, where we will enter in senseless violence just for the sake of feeling one with your fellow hooligans against the other club. It is also a form of lust. There is also a clinical lust, where people will have those unmanageable impulsion to do something disgusting. Sometimes it's about sex, but sometimes it's about swallowing spiders or even crap. So lust is basically a very destructive drive that pushes us to roll in the mud. And if you are a preacher, you are particularly vulnerable to lust. First of all, because your constant effort to orient your mind upwards will inevitably conduce some drives from downstairs to come and to control you. But also, you will suffer from other people's lust, and you will attract the lust of others. And this will be a cause of constant suffering. Your life is plagued by lust. Any form of idealism tends to split life into what is positive, ideal, and what is inferior and negative. And that makes our life miserable and lustful. But there is also another use of idealism, is to orient it towards a direct relationship with the divine. And that way is called the mystic way. And when you are applying mysticism, you don't longer try to find an ideal version of the divinity. You try to find it in your day-to-day life. You try to find the divine through your relationship with your kids, with your wife, with your colleagues. In any circumstance, you train your mind to see the divine. Therefore, there is no more separation between the lower and the upper, because the divine is everywhere, and the true mystics can see the divine everywhere. If you have a destiny of a preacher, mysticism is a way that is very easy for you because it has everything you like. The intensity of striving for something superior and the practicality to can enjoy life in day-to-day life. If you struggle to have empathy towards preacher and you are profoundly annoyed by the level of intensity and fanaticism, remember this: preachers are there to increase the degree and the intensity of the emotion. That is their mission in life. So many times it will be made difficult because they have, in one hand, very high ideals, and on the other hand, very low drives. And they have a huge problem to reconcile both. That's what makes their life complicated. That's why they deserve empathy.